الحمد لله الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض ولم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك وخلق كل شيء فقدره تقديرا. يا أيها النبي إنا أرسلناك شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا وبشر المؤمنين بأن لهم من الله فضلا كبيرا ولا تطع الكافرين والمنافقين ودع أذاهم وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا. وتوكل على الحي الذي لا يموت وتوكل على العزيز الرحيم الذي يراك حين تقوم وتقلبك في الساجدين إنه هو السميع العليم. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء إمام المرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum, Jummah Mubarak. I would like to welcome the Maulidinas and the Dallas to Costa Rica, the place of tranquility as unto you described. So I hope you guys enjoy your stay here and welcome once again. Today what I want to go over is something that is very prevalent in our day-to-day lives because we recite this many times. It is the Salawat. And oftentimes, we go about doing things, but it doesn't resonate really in our hearts what we're doing or why we're doing what we're doing. And so for me personally, once I looked into the concept of salawat, it added a lot of value into the salawat for me. Why I'm reciting it, what benefit I'm getting from the salawat. So inshallah today, I want to go over that, and the means by which I want to accomplish that is primarily, Assalamu alaikum. Is primarily looking once again to the root word of salawat. Where does it come from? And usually when we do that in the Arabic language and we take it to its three-letter verb, it really gives us more meaning as to what this is. So we did that with Fatiha, we did it with Jum'ah, we did it with Rahman, Rahim, and it ended up giving us more significance as to what those terms signify. And so with salawat, initially what I want to do is look at the three-word root, and then I want to look at two instances. Obviously the popular ayah in Surah Al-Ahzab, which is surah number 33 of the Quran, and number 56 is the verse, the one that I just recited. But along with that, 14 verses prior to that verse is another very interesting ayah that relates to the concept of salawat. So inshallah what I want to do is look at those two things and then kind of connect them together, and then finally wrap it up by looking at what is the benefit for us when we give salat to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Ahlul Bayt. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. So primarily let's look at the word salawat. Okay, so salawat is a plural form of the word salat. Okay, salat has its more deduced version is sila, which is sin, la, and a ta, a small ta, sila. And sila means connection. So many times when we talk about silatul rahm, which means the connection of the womb, right? It derives from the root word sila, which is salah, which means a connection. Okay, it can mean connection, it can mean a remembrance. So the dhikr of Allah is also another word, a meaning of salat. And then there's also a dua or a blessing, which is also salat. Okay? Now these three things that I just mentioned are different than as-salat. As-salat means aqimus salat. Namaz khara karo, like in Urdu we say. Aqimus salat, raise up, establish the prayer. That is different than, let's say, a dua, remembrance, and connection. This is the actual form of taking place of a worship of Allah. That is as-salat. Okay? So salawat is the plural of the things that we just mentioned, which is connection, remembrance, and dua. And as-salat is a one-way action that is a worship of Allah. Okay? Whereas the previous three things that we mentioned in terms of connection, remembrance, and blessings is actually a two-way street between us and Allah. Okay? So we can connect to Allah, but Allah can also connect to us. You get, like, and then we can remember Allah, and Allah also remembers us. It says in the Quran that, one who remembers me, I will remember him. So there's a two-way connection. But as-salat, Allah never would participate in an action of worship. That is only for us to Allah. Like it says in Surah Taha, La nas'aluka rizqan nahnu narzuquk. We don't ask for any risk. We are the ones that provide for you. And that's dependent on what? On us reaching out and remembering and connecting with Allah. So once we connect and remember Allah, what Allah promises is that He'll provide for us. Now a lot of us think risk in the form of a physical and material aspect, but there's also a risk of wisdom and knowledge and connection and enlightenment towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the risk which He's referring to. So that only Allah can provide for us. Nobody else can provide that. So that is the word salat. Any questions regarding salawat, salat, where it's derived from? Okay? Okay, perfect. Okay, so now what I want to do is take us to, so the popular verse from Surah Al-Ahzab, number 56 is, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. What I intend to do is look at that in more detail, but prior to me doing that, I just want to go over a verse that's mentioned 15 verses prior to that verse in the same surah, Surah Al-Ahzab. Okay? And it says, يَا أَيُّهَا أعوذ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ ذِكْرًا كَثِيرًا. O you who have faith, remember Allah with frequent remembrance. ذِكْرًا كَثِيرًا. وَسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. And glorify Him morning and evening. Prayers, glorify Him. Our tasbih that we do it morning and evening. Now this is the very important and interesting part. هُوَ الَّذِي يُصَلِّي عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ لِيَخْرِجُكُمْ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. It is He who blesses you. So again, this concept of salawat, this is coming from the angels and Allah towards us. Imagine, like, how interesting that is, that if we remember Allah, Allah is saying that me and my angels, we're sending upon you blessings so that we may take you out from darknesses and into the light. And He is to the faithful most merciful. So again, this concept of, remember when we discussed Rahman and Rahim is exclusive towards the mu'min, the believers of Allah? This is a classic example of it. So Him taking us out of darknesses into the light will only happen if we, number one, submit to Him, and if we're in frequent remembrance of Him. Right? Frequent salat. Salat, what was it again? Connection, remembrance, blessings. Aqim salat is also connected to salat. It is the establishing of the physical prayer, which includes qiyam, sujood, assalamu alaikum, and ruku, right? And tasbih during our salat, that's aqim salat. But all these things are frequent remembrances of Allah, so He can pull us from darknesses into the light. So now let's dissect the verse which happens 15 verses after this one. The first part of it is, Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Okay, so similar to Allah sending us blessings and pulling us out of darknesses into light, He does that to Rasulullah as well. Okay, but to a higher extent. Because Rasulullah was remembering Allah every moment of his life. His tongue was always in dhikr of Allah. His actions were always in remembrance of Allah. His entire being was in a submission state to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His will. So when he is remembering Allah at such a high level, more than any other human that has walked the earth, Allah is even more closer to him. And so examples of Allah and the angels sending blessings upon Rasulullah can be found in the Quran. And the first example in Surah Anbiya, he is titled, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except as a rahmah, a mercy, al-alameen, to all the worlds. That is a huge maqam right there, darajat. He's raised him to a level of rahmatan lil-alameen. So there's a proof in the Quran, this is the effects of the blessings of Allah and His angels, that you get to this state. A second example, in Surah Al-Inshirah, Alam nashrah laka sadrak. Alam nashrah laka sadrak is, didn't we open up for you your chest? And in a metaphoric sense, that Rasulullah's chest got open with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, because of that, in Surah Al-Ahzab, he is referred to as Sirajum Munira. That light, Rasulullah is given the title of Sirajum Munira, a burning lamp. So obviously to our physical senses, that light is not available. In a spiritual sense, he had that light that resonates with human beings. So maybe if we've been around people, I'm sure like Ayatollah Sistani has some semblance of a light, and people have claimed that when they sit in a room with him, it's not physical light, but they sense something. So imagine the light of Rasulullah, that in the Quran, till the Day of Judgment, he's given that title for humanity, Sirajum Munira, a burning lamp. Okay, so these are the ways that Allah is sending blessings, and Him and His angels are sending blessings to Rasulullah to pull him into the darkness, from the darknesses into the light. But he was complete light. This nafs was completely enlightened. So there was Tayyib and Tahirin. We say Ahlul Bayt Tayyibin and Tahirin. They were the enlightened. Him, Rasulullah and alihi, and his Ahlul Bayt, they had that light because they had a frequent remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is the first version, and there's other aspects of the ways that Allah pulled him out. Is in Yasin, it says, "Innaka laminal mursalin ala siratim mustaqim." He's given that title of siratim mustaqim to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Innaka laminal mursalin ala siratim mustaqim. I mean, if anybody gets that title, we always pray in Surah Al-Fatiha, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. And this title has been given to Rasulullah. Like, he is ala sirat al-mustaqim. It's a very magnificent thing. If you really analyze it, like in the Quran, he's given these titles. And then in Surah Al-Qalam, Innaka la'ala khuluqin azim. You are indeed of a great level of moral character. And that's in the Quran, written till the Day of Judgment, that he is at the highest level of a moral character. Khuluqin azim. So, and also through, God has connected his name, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Tashahud, every tashahud, we're connecting Allah with Rasulullah till the Day of Judgment. So his remembrance has been raised till the Day of Judgment. Like, this is the way that he has, the angels and Allah has blessed the Prophet. وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ, and we've raised your repute. Okay, so now the second part of it, so it says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. So now we know what that means, right? يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. So you, O believers, as well, send your blessings upon Rasulullah and submit to him in complete submission. وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Okay, so a lot of people, I actually asked this question. So if Allah and the angels are sending their blessings upon Rasulullah, why does he need our blessings? Like, he's got from Allah and the angels. Why would he need it from us? It's a very logical question. So the answer to that is that in Islam, in the Prophet's hadith, is also one of his hadith, it says that there is no believing servant who supplicates for his brother in his absence, that the angels do not say the same for you too. So the power of dua is that, for example, if Shane supplicates for me in my absence, what the angels are doing is they're giving the same, they're rebounding it back to you. So this is the miracle of supplication. So when we send our blessings upon Allah, upon Rasulullah, what's happening is that Allah and the angels are bouncing that blessing back onto us. And so in it is a benefit for us. When we say salawat with our mouths, what are we confirming? We're confirming that we follow Rasulullah and his progeny, his Ahlul Bayt, right? Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And usually what happens when you utter something with the tongue long enough, it becomes a reality in your subconscious as well. So what we're doing with our salawat is we're confirming our loyalty to the deen of Islam that Allah had brought down to cover all the deens. and as a covering and a final statement for all the deens. And who was the messenger to bring that deen to us? Was Rasulullah. So when we are confirming these things, what we're doing is we're confirming the Sharia. We're confirming his example and the example of the Ahlul Bayt. And we are saying that, by us giving salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, we're confirming to ourselves that we are of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. This is our identity. And that's why it's encouraged to say it over and over again, because it's a blessing that we're sending to Rasulullah, but it's rebounding back to us. And we're the ones who are getting the benefit of that blessing. So that's the salawat and why we say it. And the idea of Allah and the angels also sending it to us is very interesting, right? That if we turn to remembrance, He's pulling us out of light into the darkness. And the most enlightened human being that ever walked the planet was Rasulullah, because he was the closest in remembrance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when we follow his path, and we follow the path of the Ahlul Bayt, by saying salawat, we are going on that path towards a remembrance of Allah, so we can become enlightened as well. We are of his qawm, we are of Muhammad, Ali Muhammad. So salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And may Allah always make us appreciative of our Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. And may Allah always guide us to walk in their footsteps. The thaqalain, when we hear thaqila comes, it's the word that's very weighty. It's a very weighty thing, thaqila, and thaqalain are two weighty things. The first of which being the Quran, which is very weighty in its guidance towards us, and it's a very important thing that Rasulullah left behind. And then the second is his example and the example of the Ahlul Bayt. So this is the two thaqalain, the two weighty things. And if we were to follow that, then Rasulullah has promised us that you will never stray. The darkness will never pull you. You will always be getting pulled from the darknesses into the light. So when we make a prayer right now that may Allah make us cognizant of our salawats, and may He put practicality behind our salawat. That we're not the ones who are not practicing the deen of Rasulullah, the true deen of Allah, the tawheed, the true deen of Allah, but then we're giving salawats, where there's a bit of a disconnect there. But the salawat will really resonate with us if we actually practice the example of Rasulullah and his progeny. So may Allah make us of those who are more practical in our salawat, who practice our salawat in our actions, and may He always make us of the true, the deen al-haq, which had been revealed to Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Salawat. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Salawat 3. Salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين. هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هو الذين أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين ويزدادوا إيمانا مع إيمانهم. ولله جنود السماوات والأرض وكان الله عليما حكيما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The verse that I just recited is from Surah Al-Fath, and it's verse number 4 from that surah. And the highlight of that verse is that it's talking about sakina. Sakina. So Auntie, I know you just mentioned this, that when you entered Costa Rica, you felt sakina, sukoon. And so sakina comes from the word sukoon. It means inner peace of the heart. And so in the verse it says that Allah is the one who sends His sakina, which is another rahmah of Allah, mercy of Allah, onto the hearts of the believers, so that they may increase in their faith, composure, sakina, tranquility. And He, وَلِلَّهِ جُنُودُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, and to Allah belong all the forces of the heavens and the earth. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا, and ever is Allah most knowledgeable and most wise. So I want to relate this to the current situation of the world. You know, there's climate disasters that have happened, like in Pakistan. You know, we heard about that, and right now there's a hurricane in Florida, Hurricane Ian, I believe, right? And so apart from that, the world that we're living in, there's a lot of uncertain times right now. So we're in a time of war, there's international war, there's climate change. There's a lot of ways that we can get anxious. So Allah tells us, and you know, in our deen, it's very important to stay composed and positive during times, uncertain times. So in order for us to receive that tranquility, that can only come from Allah. You know, there's certain things that money can buy, and money is essential in our day-to-day lives. It provides comfort, it provides a sort of luxury for our kids, a sort of peace, but at the same time, there's certain unseen aspects that can only be gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Iman is one of them, but tranquility and the peace of heart and the sukoon is also another one. These are things that money can't buy. So you know, we know of so many people who have excessive money, like Hollywood stars and actors and rappers, and you hear stories of them committing suicide. You hear stories of them being overdosed on drugs, pharmaceutical or other drugs. And then it comes to our realization that the dunya can only give us so much. It's limited in what it can give us. Not to say that that's not important, but the things that are immaterial, in the Quran, Allah claims that to be of higher importance. These are the things which will let us survive in times of uncertainty, which will give us positivity in times of uncertainty, which will give us a peace of heart in times of uncertainty. And so I want to connect this back to the salawat. It says that, you know, Allah and His angels, if we remember Allah frequently, He pulls us out from darknesses into the light. And He is ever merciful to the mu'min, to the believer. So if we declare ourselves as mu'min and we turn to Allah in frequent remembrance, He gives us something from His forces. You know, we can admit right now that, for example, I don't know what's happening outside this wall. I don't have X-ray vision, I'm not Superman. You know, our vision is limited. Our hearing is limited. So what makes us think that our intellect is not limited? That our wisdom is not limited? That our knowledge is not limited? And Allah is Alimun Hakim, like it says in the verse, وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا وَلِلَّهِ جُنُودُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. There are forces in the unseen that we don't comprehend. The way that Allah sends sukoon and sakina into our heart are ways that we will never comprehend. These are invisible forces at play that only Allah has the wisdom of. So we have to turn back and become of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. And so when we give our salawat onto Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, what we're doing is we're confirming that we are going to be in consistent remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so He can give us those gifts that are not present in the material world. You know, and one of them is sakina, one of them is sukoon. So inshallah, may Allah make us of the Muslims in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May He make us followers of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Ati'ullah wa ati'ur Rasul. We obey Allah, we obey Rasul. If you love the Rasul, you love Allah. It says in Surah Al-Ahzab. So may Allah make us of those who love the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. And through that channel, may we be able to get close to Allah and receive His infinite gifts that He has promised us. Inshallah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I would like to take this time to recite a dua shifai marid for those who are experiencing physical illnesses, for those who are experiencing mental illnesses of the mind, and spiritual illnesses of the soul as well. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Assalamu alaikum.